Hello, welcome to the Dargon Den. I'm Nate, and I'm with Chris as usual, and we're going to be talking about virtual tools versus real tactile pen and paper tools. I know there's definitely a big side of the debate on this. One of my favorite YouTubers I watch, he calls it, and he'll state, it's called pen and paper tabletop RPG for a reason, and he is always very stuck on that. And I think just now recently he started experiencing it. Well, I'm a DM that I use both. I'm very into actually having real life notes on me that I basically stick everywhere. I love sticky notes personally, but I also use a lot of virtual things, especially tables that I can quickly switch through. But overall, I'm probably going to be arguing on definitely the side of pen and paper because I enjoyed it. But what about you?
I am definitely a tactile person. I like to use printed character sheets and be able to make scribbles on them. And I like to have real books versus PDFs. PDFs are great for just but overall I prefer a book. I prefer a book that I can spread out on a table, make notes, do what I need to do, flip from page to page quickly. Yeah, I'm a tactile.
Can you show your character sheet again real quickly?
Yes.
I was just thinking maybe we should also post that so people get that because I forgot that you use that. How do you like it?
So yeah, you know what? I might have to search to find the link again. I really like it. The only complaint I have about any character sheet that is a PDF, and there's no help for it. It's just a fault of only having a limited amount of space, is that the print gets really, really, really tiny. And I now have eyesight that's not so good for reading. And so as much as I love a real character sheet, I have been pulling my character sheet up on the computer a lot lately because I've been having problems reading my sheet.
I guess that's actually kind of a good point then that I can make right now, is that's one of the cons of actually using an in-person character sheet, because you can't change the writing, you can't change the size.
Right. You can't. You can't. And if you take a lot of notes, or you have, as your character progresses and you add more and more skills. I mean, we're only at 7th level in our game, and I already have. I mean, this is her features and traits. And that's where I usually put all those things you get as you level up. And I mean, the thing is packed.
Oh man.
So, and I don't even write it all out. I took a tip from Matt Click, and here's our tip number 1, I guess, is I'll put what it's called and the page number. I might put shorthand of what I know. If I can put a shorthand version of what it is enough that I can follow it, I'll do that, but I also put the page number so that if I have to go back and look at my player handbook, I can do that and I can read whatever it is to Nate, because he's not going to memorize every single one of those traits for every single character in his game. So I do that, but even so, like, I can't read that. I think even with my I'll put my reading glasses on and just peek at it, but this is a problem I'm having lately. So I am actually switching to my computer a lot more lately. So that's the only downfall, and I do feel like this one is even more, I feel like maybe the margins are different or something, and I do feel like the print's extra small.
Yeah, it looks like you could zoom in a little bit more when you're printing that one, honestly.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, because it did print out. As you guys,
the margins are massive.
Margins. But I do really like this layout of this sheet. This is the coolest layout ever. And since my character is a druid, like, this is, I think, my favorite sheet is the spell sheet. And it has all the spells for the druid. You only go up to 6th level. And you just fill in the little dots and you know what your spells are.
For anybody who really can't see that, maybe on the video, I'm not sure it's going to turn out. It's a custom character sheet that I've seen somebody create. I forgot their name, but we'll put the little description below, free advertisement. But no, they did really good. I think you only donate like $1 or something.
She's someone. I think her name is Rose. I think, and she's someone. I'm sorry, I should have looked this up before we.
Yeah, I just kind of saw it.
I feel really bad because we should totally be plugging her right now, but someone in one of the online groups we're in posted this and said, hey, I have this friend who did these custom sheets for her players, and she decided to make them available. So I did have to pay a really minimal fee. It was like $2 or something. I don't even think it was that much. And she's somewhere in the UK, and there's a bunch of there's like, I think each character class, and I think there's even there's like a pack where you can get the sheets for each class, and then I think there's some kind of more generic ones, but it's got also an inventory sheet, and like for my druid, there's a wild shape sheet that is the other one that I really, really like, as well as a place to put your typical like background one. One thing too that I really like about this is it has a place for the cantrips right on your main page. So your cantrips are right there. And you go to them so much in 5th edition, right? It's really nice to just be like, there's my cantrips. So I do really like that.
So here's my take on it. I generally, when I'm using, because I play around a lot, I go to different people's houses if I'm playing. I also, as a DM, I like to call myself a traveling DM because I'm always going over to my friend's house to either do mini shots or one sessions. So I usually keep all my information I can in an accessible way for myself. So what I do with my because I use real pen and paper character sheets. I don't even use the features and traits little box. I think that's ridiculous. I use the 2 other sheets, and on the back of them, I write in combat features and traits, and then I'll also write all my features and traits in big letters, as big as I want to put them, and put them all right there that I have. And I also mark what, not what levels, but like kind of like, because I do a lot of multi-classing, so I usually put like where I'm getting those features from, so I can also easily reference them in the page numbers. And then, of course, I do like the other paper on the back of the paper. I'll put out of combat features and traits, and just things for me to keep in mind, like my dark vision, or if I have to rest, or what type of rest I'll do, or all those things. So it really freed up my page. And then basically just in my traits, I just basically put like little traits that, you know, are probably really small, something that I can just kind of keep on hand. And then for my spells, I use an app, and this is called 5e Spellbook. It's pretty easy, the little name to remember. Or D&D 5e spellbook cards, and it just has absolutely everything in a really easy to manage way. You probably can't see that, but I'll probably try plugging that. But it gives you all the information that you need. It's really easy to look up, and it matches the real spells pretty much verbatim, by word, and even already comes up pre-edited if like they had to put something else new into it, including also all the extra spells that you're probably going to get with Elemental Evil, and I think even Unearthed Arcana.
So does it have a place to set up your character so that you know which spells you've chosen for your character?
Yep, it allows you your character level. It keeps your spell save DC, spell modifier. Allows you to put in your own unique spells in there as well. And it also, you can filter out to make sure to see what spells you're truly looking for. It's really easy too, because instead of going through the book and trying to switch through to find everything, one of my games I was playing in, my DM told me that I can also start grabbing druid spells.
Oh, cool.
And thanks to this thing, I could just easily just target out and single out all the druid spells that I want to be able to pull from and just throw them into my spell book. And then it even keeps track of your spell slots, and you can cast them just by tapping a few little things. It's really easy to learn. It's actually, this just takes like maybe 20 minutes and you pretty much got it down pat.
It's really nice. You've got everything right there. Then what about as you use the spells? Does it track that for you so you know how many of your spell slots you have left?
Yep, it's just a quick little tap of a little sidebar. As soon as you tap it, you can just basically say to prepare it or to cast it. And as soon as you cast it, it basically marks it as casted. And then, yeah, it's super, super useful.
So that's one thing I guess I should add is that I do use the spellbook cards. And I have in my box, I have, talk about Post-it notes. I have a little Post-it note around the cards that I use all the time, the spells that I've chosen for Shay. So I don't have to keep fishing them out every time. I can read these, and they have all the details. So the only thing, this I could probably even simplify more. I use this when I create my character, and every time we level up, anytime I get to add a spell, I use this to track which ones I have, just in case I ever have to, if I play another game and I have to pull them out, then I have the quick reference, but I mostly just use it to track the spells I use. One of these days, I'm going to come up with some little counters or something and come up with a way to do that. These you're supposed to be able to write on these, but I have not been brave enough to try it. I know some people have. But I use these, and then they have everything you need right on them, as people are probably pretty familiar. And so I keep these next to me, and when we get into like a combat situation or a situation where I want to use a spell, been using a lot of Druidcraft lately. I just pull them out and pick the spell, and then it's easy to tell you what it's about. There are a couple that you still have to go to the handbook because it doesn't all fit. But
I also forgot to mention another point for virtual, especially for DMs, is I use mine a lot. When characters tell me the spells that they want to use, I can just quickly look them up and reference without them having to tell me what it means.
And it's fast. When you look them up that way, it's fast. I'm always impressed how quickly it takes me a while to find them in the player handbook. So. Although I do that because sometimes Nate's really busy in the moment, and so I always have my book handy. So the other thing that I like about a physical character sheet is, I should say, so our friend Mary, who has been on our videos before, gave us a list of her pros and cons, and one of hers was that, you know, you can erase and update easily and still have a really nice and clean sheet, which is true. But one of the things I really love about having a physical sheet, and I don't know if everybody does this, but I keep all of my old character sheets. So I keep my character, I've started using these report binders, and I have, you know, like a picture of what my character looks like, what I think she looks like. Sorry, I didn't probably pause long enough. And then I have a sleeve where I can put my current character sheets that I'm using, which is currently empty because we just played and I had her sheet out. And then I have in the back, you know, you have those pockets and things. So in the back, I have all my previous character sheets. So if at any point I think, oh, didn't we, you gave me X, Y, Z a few sessions ago, I don't see that on my character sheet now. Shoot, what was it again? And then I can go back and I can find it. And I do find sometimes I don't translate everything across like I should, or sometimes I make a mistake in the math. And so that's good. And then one other thing I was going to say, you mentioned using the back of your sheet for those
the features and traits.
Traits, which I think is a really great idea, but I have to admit I often use the back of my sheets for my notes in game, like if I need to know something. So a lot of my character sheets have scribbles on the back of things that, you know, came up in the game, people's names I need to remember, and I haven't done a very good job of notes lately, but
shame. Yeah, you haven't been, so maybe it's a time to get in that way.
I try to, though. I do try. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes our group is moving so fast and firing so much that I don't feel like I have time to take notes. Sure. And I should probably take a few minutes after session and write down what I remember. But yeah, we kind of fly through. So physical character sheets, my preference. I still update them in the computer. I don't use pencil and paper to fill them out. Well, actually, a lot of times I do a rough draft in pen and paper so that I can make changes as I go. If I decide, oh no, I don't want to be a halfling, I want to be an elf, or you know, oh wait, no, I don't want a spear, I want to, you know, whatever. If I change something, and then when I'm done and I know it's all set, then I'll go back and I'll start filling it out on the digital version, and then I'll print it out. So what about modules, supplements, systems, core books? How do you feel about digital versions of those?
I personally don't use PDFs all that much. I find them really inefficient. Like even for my computer that's pretty fast. I don't have an SSD card in my computer. Maybe that might help a little bit, but my computer's still pretty fast and it still takes me a while to navigate through some of the books. So I actually just have the PDF, or I don't have PDF. I have the physical copies of the books I need, and I'll mark them. I'll take quick notes of things that I need, but I'll usually just mark the page too, because I always like going back and reading through it, especially when I'm pulling in monsters. and I'll just have those marks. I'll have them next to me. Since I'm a DM that does online, I have a lot of space to play with, and so I have them next to me. And then some things that are kind of important, I definitely started using tabs for on my computer. And one of them would especially be like my little D&D cheat sheet that has basically just some of the simple stuff, your skills, actions, monster stats, conjuring, donning armor, and then also the cost for everything, because that's kind of useful and nice. Sometimes we'll base on the cost in game for that. And we'll actually put the link for that in the description. It's free. It's really easy to read. I chose the easier one to read, especially because once all the colors and everything that kind of go over the top or sometimes just too much. And I think this one would be even easier to also print out because it's just in black and white and yellow to kind of mark stuff up and kind of a little bit kind of separate it. It's really easy to read. But besides that, I have a lot that's kind of mixed. But majority, I would say I do mostly all physical, because I like physical, and physical allows me to take everything that I need anywhere I go. If I'm going to go spend the night at, Chris's house, I can take everything with me. I just pack up and go. And as long as I just have like the little things online that I use, I can get it up on any computer or laptop. But this, if there's a power outage or if my internet's down, I can still use it and I can still run a session.
Right.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest things about it all too, is that if anything happens, you still have all your equipment. If you have a physical copy, you can go anywhere. You can play anytime. Yeah,
definitely. And you don't have to have a laptop to run around with you, or a tablet, or I mean,
you always have your phone, so I have nothing with that.
But age becomes a factor, right? After you get to a certain age, your eyes definitely seem to go. Maybe not for everybody, but like I said, my eyes are not so good anymore. So looking at any kind of screen all the time, especially because I work on a computer all day long, is very exhausting to my eyes. And I find that at the end of the day, it's a lot harder for me to read small print than it is earlier in the day. And I'm sure lighting's a factor. And my screen is way too small to read any of those things we linked. And it's really obnoxious to like turn the phone and try to scroll around and read it. So for me, this isn't a go-to. I use it for a lot of things, but I'm not going to have my character sheet on my phone, or probably even the spellbook thing you use is really cool. And if I had I think I do have a tablet. I have a Kindle.
I think a tablet would be good.
It's dying. So I think if I had a really good tablet, I might use it for that. But I think my phone's just too small. So that's a factor too. Like if you have eyesight issues, whether they're age-related or not, that could be a factor for people too, as far as pros and cons go.
I guess another con too that I forgot to mention about the phone, especially for DMs, I don't know about you guys, but I find it incredibly rude when somebody's sitting there playing on their phone. And I feel like for some players, it's a little too distracting having your phone so easily out and ready.
Yeah.
And if you have a problem with that, it's not really the phone's issue. It's more or less the players. But one good idea they could always try is try the phone basket that my mom had to do when we were 12. Mm-hmm. So if you're playing with 12-year-olds, I guess it makes sense. But
I think part of the great thing about this game is, especially if you're like introducing the game to teenagers, it's something I know I've commented on a lot when I've worked with Girl Scouts and stuff, is it's an opportunity to get them away from their phones and actually socializing with each other. So I don't want to encourage them to necessarily use their phones for a lot of stuff, but I think if somebody's mature enough to limit it to just the things they need for the game, I would be okay with that if I was running a game. I don't run games much, but the thing about PDFs, though, that's kind of cool, so kind of jumping back to PDF versus the PDF issue anyway, is that they are really affordable a lot of times. If you're just playing one system, maybe PDFs are not something you would ever feel you needed. But like, I really love Drive-Thru RPG, and you can get so many things. Not too long ago, I actually did a review on a review in comparison on Shadowrun and Corporation, and I was able to get a free PDF quick start version of Corporation. And I really love that, because this is one area where I really love a PDF, because I love the fact that I can try it out for free or maybe for a really minimal cost. Some of them are pay what you want, or some of them are, you know, $5, that sort of thing. It's a great way to dive in and try it and see what you think before you invest in the physical core book. So I do like them for that. The only thing is, I find that one con is that they're not, the people that provide the PDFs are not always good at saying what the page count is. And so the other day I got a PDF of a game that I'm just so excited to try, that I really want to try. And it's 100 and something pages. And I'm not going to print that at home. I'm not going to print it. And so I was trying to read it, and I just cannot. It sucks all the joy out of me to sit at the computer trying to read a book. I just can't do it. I can't do it. And I'm sure that's partly, again, because I do spend 8 hours a day on a computer at work. So as much as I enjoy a computer, when I'm on it at home, I want to be doing something fun. I love to read. It's not that reading isn't fun, but reading on a computer is not fun to me. So I actually had to have that book printed, and I've had that done a few other times too. So I do wish that people who provided PDFs would give a page count. Like, you know, if it's 25 pages, I might print it. 25 pages or less. If it's a lot more, maybe not. Sometimes too, the other advantage to PDFs, a pro in their favor, is that you can print things where you just need a page or two out of it. So I think roll tables are really cool. As a really novice GM who doesn't even really want to GM, like, I will GM if that's the only way I'm going to get to try a game. But I would much rather play any day. To me, it's not playing to GM. To me, that's another whole thing. So but I like the idea that I can print a roll table, or I can print stat blocks and have those things at my fingertips from like a module or something, because I'm much more likely to run a module. And I don't have to print the whole thing. I can just print the bits and pieces that I need. So I do like that aspect, but even then, I'm generally printing out the pieces that I need and using the physical version of it. So, but gosh, when it comes to reading core rules, I do not have any interest in doing that on the computer. It's just too much.
Another thing also that I want to bring up too is that, as you're talking about, PDFs have the advantage that you can buy them pretty cheaply. They also take up a lot less space.
Yes.
A lot less space. And people that I know that sometimes have a limited room, having hundreds of books isn't always the best option.
Yes.
But also on the side that I said sometimes it's hard to navigate through some of the PDFs. There are a lot of websites that actually do have easy to navigate. I think Roll20 is one of them. There's a few other ones, but the one I'm looking at right now is D&D Beyond, and I'm not sure if it's going to cost money yet. I think somewhere said that right now it's just a beta, so it's free for everyone. I think at some point it is going to cost some amount. But right now it's just me kind of using it on the side. It's super easy to go through. You can quickly jump to different forums. Actually, here, I'll just screen share for a second, because why not? Right there.
You can search the things you need to, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can go to monsters and you can kind of go through, you can search the name if you want to do something. You can go to your items, the spells, and then just basically the basic rule book where you can go through and just kind of look and see what you need. Only complaint right now, for some reason, is probably just on my end. My scroll wheel doesn't work on this website. This does, but the scroll wheel itself does not, and that's kind of weird.
Oh, that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, well, but right now, I mean, it's really cool, all the stuff that you can do, and it's really easy to navigate. So I have no complaints there. As far as being more like an online resource, this is really easy to get a hold of. But then again, I'm somebody who doesn't really even use the rule books too often anyways, just for quick inspiration. So, yeah. I mean, I can't complain. It's free. It's easy. It's easy peasy.
So if anybody has tips about how to navigate PDFs more quickly, if you have something you do to make it faster, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your tips. So,
I mean, I know you can put bookmarks yourself and then be able to jump pages like that, and you can also search pages. But yeah, if you have any other better ways, please let me know. Besides that, I also want to talk about this more.
Yes.
my little cheat folder. This is if the players ever get a hold of. This is where I instantly kill off the characters. But no, I find actually having real pieces of sheet and paper is way easier, at least in this sense. I mean, I'm sure you can do the same thing online with, actual like little maybe documents, but there's something like about this. Just
OneNote.
It's weird. It's almost like going on a hike and you put on a hiking shoes and get ready. It's like when you bring out your folder, you're ready to DM, and it's just so much easier just to be able to pull out and be able to find things that you want and put it off the side. I can pull out my sheet for my important character list and just throw them off to the side and have all those, or also being able to keep all the old notes and just throwing them in the back and then being able to pull them out at any time. It's something I just really enjoy about that, but I'm sure this can work in both ways. But then again, you can take this everywhere you go.
Right.
And that's honestly what I love about it. You don't have to worry about internet access or internet trouble, so you guys can go anywhere, go camping, and still have everything that you need.
Yeah, power goes out, any of that. I think, which is great, because the last time the power was out here, I wanted to play D&D so bad. I was like, gosh, this would be a great time to play D&D. Like, we can't do anything else. And there was nobody to play with. So,
oh, that's so sad.
I would totally get down with setting up a lantern and playing D&D. So,
if also anyone has any questions about, if anyone's actually curious, just please comment below, and I might make like my own little video just explaining how I organize my notes. I
think that'd be really cool.
It's actually pretty easy once you have a good system going down for yourself, and then of course you can always experiment and try yourself. Another thing I also do, which I really encourage others to do, I've seen a tip about this before, and I'll just take off my camera for a second and show. On my computer itself, if I can get it, I have all my characters' passive perceptions and ACs all in the front. So they're really quick and easy to get to, and they're all in little sticky notes, so if I ever need to change them. And they're always right there.
It's nice for us because he doesn't keep asking us, what's your PP again?
Yeah, what's your PP?
What's your AC? I want to edit that. And it occurs to me that would be really handy. Like right now, our group just returned to some place we've been before. Not everybody has been there. So I bet it's really handy to be able to pull out a sheet on the city of Barstone and go, oh, they've met this character and this character, and these people don't know this one. And so
I have my major city list and everything, and then I have it all expands down.
Nice. Nice.
It is something, I don't know. It's just something that I don't think that computers, at least in my opinion, could ever replace. Is the real feeling of actually having a sheet and having your little notes. And another thing too is I'm really ADHD, and I like to doodle a lot. So I'm usually doodling on the sides of my note papers as I'm playing with them. Kind of a bad habit, but it keeps me focused.
It helps. So, I noticed Mary mentioned too on the subject of character sheets, and it goes with what we're saying, is that it's easy to take notes. Like, so she finds it easy to just type in the notes as she goes. But she plays online almost exclusively, I think. I don't think she has.
I think she's kind of become pro with it.
And I have an in-person group and an online group. So for the in-person group, I mean, we sit around in the living room. We're nowhere near the computer. We do have our phones, which we use like in breaks, or like when the DM takes another player aside or something. There's a lot of sidebar stuff that we do where our group would do it as a mini session. We do it right then and there, and they leave the room.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got to have physical stuff then. You got to have your dice, and you got to have your character sheet and stuff, or have it on a tablet or something that you can easily access. But, you know, again, I think my other group is even more so physical copy than I am. So, yeah.
There's also another thing we want to touch base on, but this is obviously done, like way overdone, and we can kind of return back to that, because I actually want to kind of expand more upon how you think about virtual gaming as versus in person, which has been talked about a lot, so we'll get that last. But dice rolling online, and I'm just going to throw out my quick view on it. I personally don't like dice rolling online all that much. There is one huge perk that I love to it, is that it records your previous rolls. So if anybody ever doubts you, you can be like, see here, I rolled this, you know, and there's no way you can really get around it. But the weird part about dice that I really noticed, it seems like it's either one, it's too random, or it tries to be so random that sometimes it starts becoming not so much. I mean, if I had a session where my brother was rolling maybe about 420s within 6 rolls, and he could prove that he was doing it, but it's still really weird that it just sometimes it seems way too wild. It's either really low or really high, and almost feels like it's never really in between.
Yeah.
It might just be us and our experience, but it seems more like the actual in-hand dice, while I know they're probably not as random, they just seem to have a more random feel to it. It feels more real.
Yeah. I noticed Mary mentioned that too. She said the AI can seem off, rolling too high or too low for long streaks. So, yeah, although I have to say that I've seen that with live dice too. So for whatever reason, the group I game with in person, the other 3 players have amazing dice karma, and they roll high. They actually have it honed down to this set of dice will roll low when I need it to, and this set of dice will roll high. And we're playing 2nd edition, so there are situations where you want low, and they know which dice to pull out. And I'm always like struggling, like it doesn't matter, even if I switch, thinking, oh, this die is rolling a little better, or this one rolled really well for me last night when I was playing Shay, you know. But I've seen that happen with live dice too. So, but I admit I'm really suspicious of dice rollers. I do like to when Dice Stream used to. I think Dice Stream is permanently going away, or maybe has as of this month or something, from Google Hangouts. It's not going to be available anymore. But it was nice because it would display on the screen. So I guess if you were a suspicious group, or you just felt like too many people had taken advantage too many times and you wanted to keep an eye on what's going on, you can see for yourself what was rolled. But again, I haven't had any luck with the electronic rolls. Hasn't been good for me.
So as a person that's definitely going between in-person game and virtual game, which one do you prefer as far as the whole feel and atmosphere to everything?
No doubt I prefer in person. Like if we could always play in person, I'd be super happy. I love it. I love the energy. I love having everybody in the room and being able to read their facial expressions. One thing I noticed with online play that's always really difficult is, of course, with the Hangouts, it wants to pick up the person who's talking and the camera switches and all that. But you can't, if you have people talking at the same time, you can't hear them all.
Yeah.
And it causes a lot of confusion, and it's very difficult. And I feel like it's something our group struggles with a little bit. But also I have found that if you're playing with a group and you're all muting until it's your turn to talk, I have found that delay in trying to unmute and be heard can sometimes keep you from getting in with something when you want to, and you miss opportunities too.
It's pretty substantial.
Yeah, I haven't had that as much in our group because we haven't had that problem with the echo and stuff, so we haven't had to mute to make it work. We've been in pretty good shape. We've been really lucky because I don't use a headset, so we've been really, really lucky that it's been working okay. But it makes it really, really hard, like to really be spontaneous and truly jump in, and then you're missing out on all that body language of the people in the room with you because you can't see everybody at the same time, or somebody's internet's bad, usually mine. We've been really, I think because I got the new computer, things have been much better, and I haven't had to turn off my camera, and it's been good. But in live games I've played, and you guys can find me if the links of both the games that all the games that both of us have played in are linked in a playlist on our channel. But I think every time I've had to turn off the camera because I just don't have great internet. So that's a problem too. It means not only can they not see anything to go along with what I'm saying, but I can't see them. So there's none of that facial expression, none of that energy. And it's one thing it too is that, like, when the DM does take somebody aside because they scouted ahead, or they're doing something that only they see, it gives us a chance to take a bit and say and strategize and talk things over character to character, and that can be really nice. I don't know if that's always okay. I think we're pretty good about not bending the rules or getting out of line with that. But
no, they're a pretty good group. I mean, honestly, though, there's probably so many advantages being in person, other than the only thing that I say computers have advantage of, which I know has been talked over 100 times, is just that it's so much more convenient. You can hop on for 3 or 4 hours and go back to your regular life versus a real life game. The person hosting is having a hard time because they have to bring everyone into their home. They have to make sure their house is clean. If you're worried about that, you have to generally, everyone is cook and bring food.
Feed people. Yeah, or have a plan for how the food's going to happen.
But then at the same time, though, I think that's one of the things that brings it all together, is having that food and everyone eating together and conversing. It's more camaraderie, and especially easier as a DM. I've noticed is that you can actually, as you said, mentioning facial expressions, that's really important. We have to take a lot of cues of people's body language to see if they're happy or they're upset about something. Also, if they're generally just more, what's the word I'd be looking for? A little more theatrical, and they're more willing to play out their characters' faces. I know I catch myself doing a lot when I'm playing, especially if I'm getting into an NPC. And then a lot of times they can't even catch that. Sometimes they will, especially with Google Hangouts. If you're perceptive enough, you can kind of catch their faces on the bottom. I find myself doing that a lot.
You're pretty good at it. Also, though, too, like just knowing somebody wants to jump in with something to say.
Yeah.
Because you maybe see them, you see their light bulb go on, and you can't always do that with a group.
Another thing, too, that I think it's a really big thing I don't really hear a lot of people talking about with in-person. It seems a hell of a lot easier to coordinate breaks and food and bathroom sessions. It just seems so much easier when everyone's there. And it feels more natural than everybody just hopping off the computer and dealing with that. And also, you can kind of keep distractions to a minimum. Dogs barking on a mic is a hell of a lot more annoying when it's over a mic versus in person. And I have noticed that's a really big difference from gaming in person to gaming with a group.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I agree on the breaks too, because you can get a better sense in person of, that somebody maybe needs a break. I can get up and start to walk out of the room, but linger to make sure I'm hearing something I need to hear. But the DM sees that, hey, I need a bio break or whatever.
Yeah.
And also that you can gauge better whether you actually need to be hearing what you're hearing, or whether it's a good time to just sneak out and come right back.
Yeah, and dip out.
Yeah.
And also, it's really cool too, because people can kind of give each other like little secret messages to inside person. And then another thing is that another problem with videos is that you don't get the full body language. You can't see if somebody is fidgeting on the side, if they're getting more bored. It's a lot easier to see, as I kind of explained before. It's so much easier to see body language. Right.
And another thing is that when you play in person, you have a lot more stamina to play in person. We're comfortable. We're sitting on the sofas. We can change positions easily. We're not looking at a computer screen that tends to just kind of wear your eyes out and stuff. And yeah, just as comfortable as my office chair is, I'm way more comfortable if I'm sitting in the living room. And we also we can have music, and we usually have music playing in the background, and it's atmospherically, there's so many good things.
Especially your house, though. You're kind of lucky. You have a really atmospheric house, to say the least. Especially for our game, it's gonna be perfect.
I have a great house for just entertaining in general, so it makes it really easy. There's plenty of room for everybody. In fact, we've never played at their house since we started playing, because they have a pretty small place, and it's very hard to find. It'd be very difficult for everybody to have a comfortable place to sit.
So I guess that's another con, though, for online gaming. If somebody has a smaller house and everyone, is cheaper, especially like being or we're basically college students. If we had our own place, it'd probably be a very small 1-bedroom apartment. And that would be really hard to entertain guests versus somebody that's more set up like Chrissy and Steve, where they have a massive house with massive entertaining space. So I guess that's more dependent on the people.
Yeah. So that's actually a pro for, you know, for online, is that it doesn't matter. And if your place is messy, I mean, I'm pretty messy back here, but like you only see so much of it.
See that back there, that giant sheet? That's because I was cleaning and I was too lazy to put all the clothes. So yeah, it's very easy to hide the dirtiness.
Yes. So that's really nice. The other thing that's really great about that I do value about being able to play online is that the very thing that makes it difficult to play in person, the time schedules and stuff, is actually magnified online. But the end result, when you can make it come together, is that you get to play with people from all over the place. You know, I played with a guy from Australia, somebody in England. I've played with a lot of people on the West or East Coast, and people in Canada. And I think I played with somebody from a couple other countries too that I'm not sure like where they're from, but they were definitely like in Europe somewhere. So you can just you get all these people together from places that you would never otherwise have an opportunity to play with them, or that at least your opportunities would be rare. I suppose you could meet up with some of them at a con or something, but you know, I've noticed there's somebody in Japan who's in one of the online groups I've seen a post here and there trying to hook up with people to play too. So Shadowrun, I would never have played Shadowrun if it weren't for the Australian DM Thomas Stansfield, who like went out of his way to set up a US West Coast friendly start time for a game. He got up at, you know, some ungodly hour of like 6 o'clock in the morning or something to run a game.
See, that's committed DM right there.
It's very committed and very, very kind. And so, you know, sometimes it brings you opportunities that you wouldn't get to have, but I'd still take in person any day.
Another good thing about online too, I was thinking about, I just recently had an in-person meetup with a group, and I was very apprehensive about meeting them because, you know, and you never met these people before and you're going to some random stranger's house. So it definitely feels a lot safer, especially for somebody like me who I generally am pretty homebody and I don't like going out as much. It's kind of nice being able to stay home and being able to meet people online first, see if you like them. But anyways, it turned out they were great though anyway, so I had nothing to worry about. Beautiful home, fantastic group of people. They're hilarious. And that's another thing too I've noticed. It's a lot funnier when you're playing in person. It seems like jokes are more easier to pick up and read, and people are more or less have more ability to say more without it being too obstructive.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a lot of fun.
When we play online, we feel more. You know, our group definitely is very time constrained. Our poor group has a really difficult time getting together. We have, you know, one player who only has days off in the middle of on the weekdays. We have me that has a typical 9 to 5-ish job, but I have this long commute, and you know, and then we have, you know, so we have this gamut. We have somebody still in school or still doing, you know, like schooling. We have, you know, everybody's got a different
students. We have an army boy who does 24-hour shifts. CQ, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and who basically only ever has weekends, if that. And so it's really complicated even for our group to get together. And then when we do, we're on a time constraint because, you know, poor Emily only has Monday, Tuesday off, so she's never off when the rest of us are off. I think that's the one thing, is most of the rest of us have weekends off. Although for a while you didn't either.
Nope.
And you two didn't always even have the same day off.
No, that sucked.
So that was a huge challenge. And then because she does have to work, she gets up, I don't know what time she gets up, but she gets up early for work and works a full day. And she has a very short window, you know, to be rested and ready for work. So it's really tough for her. We're always pushing her to play later because I don't have the option to play earlier unless I happen to be off work. And gosh, we have never been successful really playing any earlier than, you know, late afternoon.
Occasionally we can get that good game in, and those games usually last, like, I think the longest game we've had lasted 6 hours.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
That was awesome. We actually broke for dinner and came back, and that was like, we got through so much that day and really got to get into the game. That was really good.
I just can't wait to be there. But that's also another thing also I hit on really quickly. Just again, it's probably really off topic. This is why one-shot or mini session games are so beautiful, because I can pull my players aside and I can get a few long games with single players and really start kind of breaking in some of the more personal games. It definitely makes the time that we have to play seem a lot less, seems more bearable when you can kind of pull them aside during the week and play with people in their own time.
Well, and last night, for the first time, well, not the first time, but the first time on the scale that we did, we actually did some play-by-post and discovered that that was a great way to work out some of the downtime things that were going on that were important, but that, you know, that were easy enough to just role play with the written word. And that was actually pretty cool. So that's one thing, if you can get the group together even for just 30 minutes or an hour online, because they have a little time maybe after dinner and before bed that they can do that, then that's a good way to like make the, you know, fill in for that lack from having to have such a short session when you're all together. So I think that really helped too.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't feel like we needed a lot of DMing for that. So that, I think that was an easy situation for you too, because you didn't really need to, it was mostly just conversation. There weren't any roles required, or
you didn't talk to any NPCs either. It was easy. It was nice.
Yeah, it was all just us talking to each other, so it made it really simple.
I'm surprisingly impressed with how proficient you were with play-by-post.
I really had fun with that. It was fun.
You and Marion were taking the show. I don't think everybody else was too hesitant to step in, and I think Hema barely stepped in at the end there, and the other two members were just like, I don't know what we're doing, but they just read it and they seem to enjoy it. So let's see if we can get them onto it too. But that was definitely, yeah, that's a lot of fun doing play-by-post. I guess that's more of a online thing, and that's something you can't do in person. So there's that.
I don't know that I would enjoy playing by post as an entire.
Oh no,
vehicle.
I don't.
I know some people are really getting into it, but I definitely enjoy it as filling in. And of course, we've done some of it that way with mini sessions.
Yes.
They're almost micro sessions even, right? They're like, you know, Nate'll like send me something. What would Shay think about this? And then we'll go into something, and then he may say later, hey, when you get to your dice, I need you to roll this or this. And it works, and it makes it really easy to fit more game into the busy schedule of your.
Also, another way I do that too, a lot of times I'll have mini sessions with people and they won't have access to dice. A really quick way, if you want to kind of be able to roll without that, I always say number 1 through 20, and then usually they can memorize their modifiers. I'm pretty good at knowing my character's modifiers too, so I have memorized almost all my whole entire teams for the basic stuff. And I'll also have them tell me, you know, think of a number 1 through 20, and I'll think of a number, and then I'll just kind of bounce up from there. So if I say 1 and they say 20, that means they basically rolled a natural 1 and they critically failed. Versus, I kind of loop it around. I messed my own self up there. So basically, I say 1 and it's roll 20, that basically means they roll 19. If they're further the roll away from it, though, the worse off it is for them. So let's say if I say 1 and they say 10, that means they're really far away, almost as far as they can be. Versus, like, if I say an 8 and they tell me like a 6, they're really close. It's not the most perfect solution, but it's pretty easy just for quick things that you need to know. Let's say, so if a character is just trying to see somebody or see something really quickly, they can.
That's great. And I guess that's a pro for electronic dice is, you know, like you said, you always have your phone on you. So you could, I wouldn't necessarily object to doing it for a quick thing. I just wouldn't want to do it for an entire game session.
Oh gosh, no, yeah.
Electronic dice. I'm not big on them, but I could see doing it here and there.
Yeah, they're there for a reason. I mean, I remember on our hiking trip, I did a little mini session with 2 of my characters, and one of them had their electronic dice out, so it was really easy just to get some rolls in real quickly for just little things. You know, you don't need to be too big, but the randomness is there. Besides that, though, is there anything else you want to hit before we sign up?
I guess on the dice thing, going to the dice, I know we've skipped around a lot, but I realized I didn't cover a couple of things. We didn't cover a couple of things that Mary had put in about the dice. So she uses Roll20 for her dice rolling, and she likes that you lose your dice, which is a good point. You can't misplace them because they're right there. The rolls are logged, which you already commented on, but she's mentioned that the macros, she said macros make it easy to organize frequent rolls at just a click. So you don't have to think so much about the math. And I have to admit that I've been kind of interested in that, at least maybe giving it a try for maybe a mini session or something. But I can't figure out how to set up the macros, so yeah.
Tech savvy you are not.
I am not so tech savvy. I have my areas, but that's not one of them. So, and then she said, obviously on the cons, we already mentioned about the AI being off, but she said, of course, it's not the same as rolling by hand. And you do need internet access, so you're out of luck if power's out.
But that's not saying that
your phone happens to work when the power goes out, but
yeah, because some phones, I know there are some dice apps that do have macros. I think I actually have one of them. I can put out the name if you want to check it out. Let me just pull it up really quickly. But yeah, I mean, your phone should be able to run without it, and there might also be apps you can download on your computer, or programs that could also roll dice for you as well. Oh dear, did I get rid of it? Oh yeah, DN Dice. That's what it's called, just DN Dice. It has macros that you can also use too. They're called presets, and you can kind of set them up to what you need.
Nice. So I think too, though, like, I don't know how handy that would be for like a dice pool system. It works probably great for D&D or things where you don't have a lot, but I wonder how it would work with a dice pool system. So I know one game I heard a one shot of. I only heard one session of Werewolf, and that's a oh boy, New World of Darkness or World of Darkness. I don't know which version of World of Darkness they were playing, but it's a World of Darkness game. And if I understand correctly, which I was just following along by ear, I did recently pick it up, but I haven't gotten through all the mechanics yet. But they build a pool of dice based on, you know, your stats and then like different traits and things you have that may apply to the situation. So, you know, maybe you're pulling out a gun and you have some, you know, sharpshooter trait or, yeah, I don't know enough about it, but I know I could hear this guy sitting in front of must have had a mic right in front of him, and I think he's one of the guys that runs the podcast, and he had his dice sitting there, and you could hear him fishing out dice, and he just kept pulling out dice. It had to be a huge handful of dice, and as people rolled, you could hear him rolling large quantities. So I wonder, since you're building those pools for each situation, I have to wonder if that wouldn't be a little cumbersome with an electronic dice system. So,
well, when you're pulling dice, does it get rid of dice that you're using, or are you just talking about rolling large sums of dice in general?
You actually, yes, you roll large sums of dice, but each situation you're in determines how many you get to put in to your pool. So another game that's like that is Dogs in the Vineyard that I just recently picked up, and it has, you know, you pull your stats, and then you have traits. I don't think your pools get too awful huge with that game, but it probably depends. But you also have, for each situation, it depends on the type of conflict, which abilities or whatever you use. I forget what they call it in that system, but like if it's just a social one, you're pulling your, you know, like your acuity and your heart or something. Yeah. And then you may also have other things, you know, maybe you're quick with the word, or, you know, really strong with scripture or something. So you have like this pool of dice. And then as the situation changes, it may escalate, what they call escalating. And so it may go to a physical confrontation where you're going to be hitting each other or shoving each other. And so then you're going to have different dice that you add into that pool. So that seems like it would be. I did see it played on YouTube, and they were using, I don't know, Roll20, I think, and they didn't seem to have any trouble with it. But even so, I found it a little hard to follow because they were, you know, having to roll their dice and then somehow pull it up on the screen and then cross them off as they used them, and but it was doable. So I don't know if anybody has, again, you know, feel free to comment below and let us know how you feel. If you're a player of games where you have to build your dice pool for each situation, do you find, you know, does it bother you? Is it cumbersome? Is it just as easy? Is it just a matter of getting used to it? You know, whatever your thoughts are, tips.
Yeah, I have no experience in there. The only one thing I do like about online, though, or at least electronic dice, is that it does the math for you. Really nice when you're rolling a lot of dice, especially like Dragon's Breath. Those breath weapons are so ridiculous.
Right.
It makes things so
Oh man, I love to have a big handful of dice and roll them for like lightning bolt or hailstorm, or, you know, there's a couple spells where you really get to, I think lightning bolt right now with my 16th level wizard, I think I roll, it's like, I have a spell in 2nd edition D&D, I think it's the lightning bolt, I'm not positive, but one of them I get to roll like 16 d6s, and I love that. I love that. And that's part of the fun for me, is getting to gather them all up and roll them. And yeah, I have to add them all together, but I've gotten pretty good at that.
It's especially a lot of fun too, because of my monk. I have a monk wizard dual class, and he gets, or no, sorry, a monk, a fighter wizard dual class, and then with my second wind, I can cast 2 fireballs at the same turn. And it's just nice just having all those dice just to be able to launch out. It's so much fun.
Nice. So cool. Well, and I was just listening to guys, if you haven't listened to the One Shot podcast and you're interested in lots of systems and you want to, you know, hear how the games go in those other systems, I really recommend that podcast. So just like yesterday on the way home from work, I was listening to 13th Age. And in that system, apparently, as you level up, you get more dice for your damage. So, you know, so say you're, you know, using a dagger in D&D, it would be a D4. I don't know what it is in 13th Age because I've never played it. But like if you're, as you level up, you get to add another D4, another D4, another D4. And apparently a lot of the spells work that way too. So your damage goes up with your level. And so again, you know, it's not like you can just set a macro at the beginning of the game and that's your macro all the time. You're going to have to keep changing it. So I don't know if I don't know. It's probably not that big a deal to change it.
It'd be really easy to change that.
I think I'd still rather just grab another die out of my box and roll it. So I guess that's just my bias coming through.
All right. Well, anyways, I think I'm out of subjects to talk, at least on here. You?
Yeah, I think we've beat this horse.
It's pretty dead. It's dead, and we're about to. So thank you guys for listening. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, please comment, like, subscribe, share. Besides, anything else you want to add?
I think that's it. Thanks so much for joining us, and until we see you next time, just get out and get gaming. Bye.
Bye.